Turning wetter in the far northwest and windier here as well. This is an active weather front that's going to bring a change, getting gusty and turning soggy. Further south, generally dry with some sunshine, 10 or 11 degrees Celsius, but it's going to turn colder for all of us through the weekend.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Luck.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about.
Join me and my A-team of top pundits.
Chemistry tonight is electric.
As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m. This is Patrick Christys Tonight with me, Ben Leo.
Well, I'm glad to see the honourable member making a rare appearance back here in Britain. He spent so much time in America recently. I was half expecting to see him on the immigration statistics.
Starmer ribs Nigel, but has Farage got the last laugh over the Chagos Islands?
I warned the Foreign Secretary 6 weeks ago in this chamber that it was an enormous mistake to do this, given that we had a US presidential election.
Breaking reports tonight suggest Donald Trump is set to ensure the islands stay under British ownership.
But the problem is not too many managers, but too few with the right skills and capabilities.
Controversial, I know, but is this Labour's most capable cabinet member? Wes Streeting targets fat cat NHS bosses in a crackdown on failure. And
I'm not ashamed that people come to my house with a really crazy overreaction to something that should just be let go. It's trying to shape the morality of the population, right? It's thought control.
Even Elon Musk has waded in tonight. Orwellian police quizzed Telegraph journalist Alison Pearson over hurty words in a tweet. She now faces a hate crime investigation. Also,
Mr. President-elect and former President, thank you. Donald, congratulations. Thank you.
Donald Trump inches closer to the White House. So do we need to copy his plans to take a flamethrower to government waste? And
how do I look? Slaying. Maya. Fabulous.
Really? She'll love that.
Robin.
Oh, that's very them.
oh, make it stop. Boots the Chemist does its best to wreck Christmas with a stupid new ad. Tonight's panel are ready to get stuck in too. I'm joined by Director of Popular Conservatives Mark Littlewood, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and the broadcaster Judita De Silva. And live scenes here from Guardian HQ as they announce Has Nigel just saved the Chagos Islands? Next.
Thank you, Ben. The time is just after 9 o'clock, and these are your latest headlines. Axel Rudikabana, the teenager charged with the murder of 3 children in Southport earlier this year, has appeared for a plea and preparation hearing at Liverpool Crown Court this afternoon, but was not asked to plea. The teenager appeared via video link from HMP Belmarsh, but refused to speak when he was asked twice to confirm his identity. Rudikabana is also charged with 10 counts of attempted murder, 1 count of possession of a knife and 2 terror-related offences. His trial is scheduled for January of next year. Failing hospitals will be named and shamed in league tables and managers sacked if they cannot improve patient care and take control of their finances. Health Secretary Wes Streeting told leaders at the NHS Providers Conference in Liverpool there will be no more rewards for failure. Those were his words as he set out a package of measures aimed at tackling poor performance. Speaking earlier today, the Health Sec also championed the Chancellor's autumn budget, claiming the NHS came out on top.
Our collective challenge is to take the NHS from the worst crisis in its history, put it back on its feet and make it fit for the future. The budget was important. The Chancellor gave us the investment we need to arrest the decline, begin fixing the foundations and start turning the service around. The NHS was the standout winner. We're delivering the largest health capital budget since Labour was last in power and the biggest cash uplift in day-to-day spending of any government department.
Elsewhere, post office bosses have set out plans to fix their finances. That comes amid reports that hundreds of branches could close down. The shake-up may result in the closure of 115 branches wholly owned by the post office, putting more than 1,000 jobs at risk. Residents in the Spanish region of Valencia have been preparing for further heavy rain and storms just 2 weeks after flash flooding caused devastation across the country. A Spanish weather agency issued an amber warning yesterday, forecasting between 40 and 120 millimetres of rain for the areas around Valencia. Residents have been advised to stay at home and volunteers have been told to pause their clean-up efforts whilst further safety preparation measures are put in place. And never mind the age-old question of a white Christmas, could we be in for a white November? The Met Office has announced that the UK could see a flurry of snow as early as this Sunday, as temperatures have already plummeted below zero in certain parts of the country. They say that Arctic winds moving southward will bring freezing weather and with it what they call the possibility of snow. But for now, those are your latest GB News headlines. I'm Sophie Reaper. More from me in the next hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Lineker gone, Welby gone, and even The Guardian has quit Twitter, now known as X. Nature is healing. Or, as Labour types would say, the grown-ups are back in the room. It looks like we're even going to keep the Chagos Islands after all too. Keir Starmer and David Lammy gave away the overseas British territory to Mauritius, of course, admittedly in negotiations first opened by James Cleverly, which opened the door to China's spies and military filling the vacuum on the Indian Ocean Islands. Now, though, get this, US President-elect Donald Trump looks set to throw a big fat spanner in the works by torpedoing Lammy and Starmer's deal that was eventually approved by Joe Biden. Trump is reportedly taking legal advice from the Pentagon on how to kill the deal off, with one Nigel Farage being named as the man who's been piling on the pressure behind the scenes. And a source from Trump's transition team said today Trump has expressed a stance in principle to object to the deal, if elected, on the advice of the Department of Defense based on their global security posture. Nigel was today asked about the rumours and he simply said, "It's happening." So what's clear now, if it wasn't before, is that Nigel Farage has the ear of the next US president, a man he's remained loyal to even when it was unfashionable to do so back in 2016. However, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, doesn't seem to understand that yet.
In doing so, not just do the right thing, but maybe mend some fences between this government and the incoming presidency of Donald Trump's, given that the whole of his cabinet have been so rude about him over the last few years.
Well, I'm glad to see the honourable member making a rare appearance back here in Britain. He spent so much time in America America recently. I was half expecting to see him on the immigration statistics when we see the next plan. But he may have missed. I did congratulate the incoming president last week.
All right, not bad for the Prime Minister, I'll give him that. But look, Sir Keir Starmer can crack all the Farage jokes he wants. What's really laughable is that the humble MP for Clacton now has more influence over US-UK relations than the Prime Minister himself. So maybe, just maybe, this humorless Labour government should start thinking about how to make the most of it. But let's get the thoughts of my panel tonight. Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and the broadcaster and journalist Judita De Silva. Good evening, you three. Thank you for joining me. Judita, what do you reckon? Nigel Farage, more influence in the US over Sir Keir Starmer, our great Prime Minister?
I mean, we've discussed this before, where I'm very curious about Nigel Farage's methodology, because I don't exactly know what his intentions are. Are you trying to run a viable political party? Or are you trying to elevate yourself by being a pseudo-Trump acolyte? The whole point is that if he is clearly enamored with Trump, period. And I don't think he regulates that enough in the public eye to make him actually respectable as a politician and the leader of Reform UK, because that is not your job. You're not an ambassador. You're not an advocate for Trump in Britain. And also, he needs to be very wary, because if you should ever create a paper trail where you're seen to be operating to the detriment of the British government, whether or not it's your party or not, in the interest of a foreign government, that's a treasonous position to be in.
Treason? Adam Brooks, treason from Nigel Farage?
No, I think that's ridiculous. Look, at the end of the day, I'm not for a foreign power intervening in our democracy, but the idea that giving the Chagos Islands away was a democratic decision is ludicrous. Parliament was not asked, it was not scrutinised through Parliament. So,
well, they will be doing that in 2025.
Yeah, but the decision was made to give this away. So at the end of the day, this is an asset of the country. This is an asset of the people of the UK. It's got strategic value and it's got a monetary value. Now, this government has signed us up for 100 years to pay rent on something that we used to own. I think it's in the national interest that Trump vetoes it, and I'm all for that.
Mark, what's the pushback with Farage being friends with Trump? Regardless of whether he's mates or he's this and that, if he's doing something in the national interest of Britain, i.e. keeping hold of the Chagos Islands, securing our defence future, if anything, what's the problem with that?
I don't think there is a problem. I mean, I think Judita raises an interesting point. Is he...
Or treason?
Well, no, not treason. I don't believe this is treason. Farage is clearly doing what he believes to be in the national interest of the United Kingdom. I don't think there's any suggestion he believes this is in the interest of America, but not us. It's completely consistent with his position. And he has positioned himself brilliantly. He basically took, if you like, the political gamble that Trump would win the presidency. He has. I don't think Farage ever thought that was a certainty, and he has associated himself as the leading advocate in Britain of that new brand of right of centre politics. The Labour Party, and now our Labour government, have done exactly the opposite. You would have thought they had bet every single chip they had on Kamala Harris winning. They had
they sent enough activists.
They sent activists there. They got this deal through, apparently without even considering there might be a change of administration hostile to it. Absolutely extraordinary judgment by our government.
When you say that he's played his position brilliantly, to what end?
Well, I think he is now seen as the key political link person between the Trump administration and UK politics. And to pull that off as the leader of a political party with only 5 MPs in our parliament is extraordinary.
Do you accept that's accurate, Judith?
I don't think that's accurate, because this is where I'm coming from. He has Trump-leaning sentiments, period. He has an anti-Labour feeling.
Sure.
And that is why I said that what position are you trying to hold? Because if you're constantly moving as Trump is right, Labour is wrong. No, Labour is the British government.
Which Farage opposes.
Yes, but it's the government of Britain. So remember that Trump's whole ethos is America first, America only. He will do that to the detriment of the UK if he has
Labour
to.
won't be in power after another 4.5 years. The way they're messing up this country in the last 4 months, impossible. At the end of the day, it's going to be...
Well, what's wrong, Adam? We've had great pay rises for train drivers.
It's all going swimmingly.
People are underestimating the reform rise in the next 4 years. People are over the moon what's happening across the pond, but it's only going to grow here. Trump is not stupid. He knows that there's a wave just about to hit in the UK where people that are on the centre get pushed to the right, and Reform are going to mop up a load of those votes. So he's playing it right. Farage is also an asset for Trump. He can shape politics here via his mate and via the movement of reform.
I mean, I'd argue Farage has a better case of influencing and doing good for Britain on Trump's side of the pond than he does here in Clacton.
I think you overestimate the kind of sway that Farage has with Trump. Trump is someone that sees people to his benefit. If Farage happens to be in his benefit, he will use him as so, but I don't think he rates him with the kind of respect you're levying on his shoulders.
Yeah, that might be right, but we're basically comparing Nigel Farage with, say, David Lammy, who clearly has no influence whatsoever of the Trump administration. I think you're right. We shouldn't believe that if Farage whispers something in the President-elect's ear, it's going to happen. Nevertheless, we have got this politician who is extraordinarily close to him, and Farage's gamble has come off, and the Labour government's gamble has not.
Play it cleverly, because you might be a quote-unquote asset, but you position yourself politically in this country as an antagonist. That's why I keep asking, to what end are you actually operating?
I shouldn't think Nigel cares what Labour types and lefty voters think of him. But
just going back to the Chagos Islands, at the end of the day, the Chagosians were never consulted on this. What this Labour government did was out of order. And the right thing will happen if the US vetoes it.
Can I get your thoughts on the Chagos Islands?
Yeah,
do you think it was a good thing that Lammy and Starmer have agreed to surrender?
Yes, when you say surrender, absolutely, because first of all, it's when
even in light of all the military when
we talk about
China are filling a vacuum.
We have had so many conversations about colonialism is something of a bygone era. This are vestiges of a time that doesn't exist anymore. We have a concrete black and white example of benefiting from colonialism to this day. The whole point is that Mauritius should own that.
But they have no claim to the islands.
The island was forcibly seized. And the islanders were removed from that island because it was a negotiation for Mauritius to have independence that they gave this island to Britain. And then the US has requested that all the over 1,000 islanders were moved so they could use it to their end. So the whole operation of the UK and the US is something that is akin to colonialism. Well, they should not be there. And just because it's inconvenient for you to have a naval base there because you have this constant paranoia of people like Mike Waltz and Marco Rubio of China, it doesn't mean that you have a claim to the island.
But I mean, the problem, humans were not displaced by us taking the islands, right? And all territory is like that. So I'd have some sympathy with the government's position if they were as consistent as you were and said the same thing applies to Gibraltar and the Falkland Islands, and we'll hand them back as well.
I mean, where do you start?
But weirdly, the government claims to be drawing a line around Gibraltar and the Falkland Islands. No, those are British and will remain so, even though all property is seized at some point by some flag or other. But Chagos Islands somewhat different. And I'm rather worried that it is a piece of virtual signalling about colonialism rather than a decision made around defence and national security measures.
The Court of Justice has said it should be handed over forthwith.
Well, I wouldn't take that as the most neutral observation.
We're giving it to a country that's 1,500 miles away. That's the same as London to Marbella. They're nowhere near these islands. It's ludicrous.
And also, brother, Janisa, I get your sentiment about, I don't agree with it, about colonialism and, doing the right thing. However, in the current day and age, China is going to fill that vacuum on the Chagos Islands.
That is
and it's going to be a detriment to
That
Britain,
is a speculation, and that is scare politics, because the agreement that was drawn together has not put the UK or the US in jeopardy, or the Indian Ocean, because the whole point is that it was strategically put together to hand it back to those who should have it.
Would you give up Gibraltar?
Yeah.
And the Falklands.
And the Falklands, you give them all back?
Yeah.
Okay. So all the people there, where do they go? Come back to the UK?
No, but why do you think by handing over ownership that they're going to boot those people out? Because you have a template for the way colonialism worked. Not other people operate the same way. You can still be welcome in a country, but it's under different ownership.
Democracies who have voted to stay in those territories.
Okay. Mark, Adam, Janisa, thank you very much. We'll be back in just a tick. Change of gear now. There's just 2 weeks left to grab a chance to win Christmas on us in the Great British Giveaway. That's £25,025. Get it? In tax-free cash, plus a whole host of Christmas goodies to ensure you have a fantastically festive time. And the best news is we'll get it to you in time for the big day. Time's running out to get your entries in, though. Here's all the details you need for a chance to win. All right, very good luck to you. 25 grand, that's a lot of Bucks Fizz over Christmas, or maybe something stronger, if you fancy it. Anyway, coming up, Elon Musk's been appointed to lead Donald Trump's new Department of Government Efficiency. But back in the UK, the civil service is bigger than it's ever been before, don't we know it? And we've just wasted £100 million of your taxpayer cash on a shed for bats. So do we need to follow Trump's lead and appoint an efficiency czar? Going head-to-head on that are former Tory MP Brendan Clark-Smith and the political commentator Samuel Sweek. Back in a tick.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
The former royal correspondent for the Sun newspaper, Charles Ray. Good to see you this morning, Charles, and so good to see Catherine back to work with a hug.
It is. It's fantastic. I mean, there are a few royal jobs that touch at the heartstrings, and this is certainly one of those. And I think it's the first time we've actually seen Catherine back in a royal duty since she herself confirmed that she'd finished chemotherapy.
Done so much, haven't they, the Princess of Wales and the King, to raise awareness for these cancers.
Here we have both the King and Catherine having, explained to the nation and the rest of the world that they were battling or are still battling cancer, just like everyone else.
How sincere is all of this? I mean, it looks it looks like she's a wonderful, kind, caring woman, but I don't know. I've never met her.
Well, she is a wonderful, kind, caring woman. That is without a shadow of a doubt. And William heard about this young lady on a visit to the air ambulance, and they invited her because she's a photographer, so she wanted to take. She has a bucket list and wanted to take pictures of an investiture. I mean, make no mistake, people like Catherine are just absolutely wonderful in what they do and how they do it. I mean, and Catherine is the superstar of the royal family. Of that, there is no doubt.
It's the cockles of my heart, Charles. It really does. It's really good to see you. Thanks very much.
All the
Thanks,
best.
Charles. Thanks. And Liz, who is this 16-year-old amateur photographer who was hugged by Princess of Wales yesterday, said it was a dream come true.
I bet it was.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Patrick Christys tonight with me, Ben Leo, only on GB News. Coming up, is Wes Streeting right to go after fat cat NHS bosses? But first, after Donald Trump tasked Elon Musk with slashing red tape and cutting down on government bureaucracy, should we follow suit in the UK? It's time now for the head-to-head. Yes, the tech billionaire Elon Musk has been appointed to lead Donald Trump's new Department of Government Efficiency in the US, tasked with dismantling government bureaucracy and slashing red tape. Back in Blighty, though, Musk's appointment as efficiency czar has left many wondering if we need to follow suit. Reform UK MP Rupert Lowe suggested on social media today, we need a British Elon Musk. Indeed, it was revealed last week that more than £100 million of taxpayer cash was wasted on a shed to protect bats on a section of the HS2 line, even though there's no evidence the trains would interfere with the bats in the first place. And just months after Keir Starmer took power, he quietly dropped Tory plans to cut around 66,000 civil service jobs after the headcount ballooned post-Brexit. So tonight, I'm asking, after Donald Trump tasked Elon Musk with slashing red tape and cutting down on government bureaucracy, should the UK follow suit? Let me know your thoughts by heading to gbnews.com/your say, or tweet me at GBNews and vote in the poll while you're there. I'll bring you the results very, very shortly. Going head-to-head on this now are former Tory MP Brendan Clark-Smith and the political commentator Samuel Sweet. Good evening to you both. Thank you for joining me. Brendan, good idea getting a flamethrower to government waste in Whitehall and tearing it all down?
Absolutely, yeah. You look what Donald Trump's doing. He's not wasting any time now. I think it was a bit of a shock when he first got in, but he's had longer to plan this time. And first thing he wants to look at is government efficiency. And who better than Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy? Now, Elon Musk, he cuts the workforce down at Twitter, or X as it is now, by about 80% or so. It's still been incredibly successful there. And in the UK, as we know, that we've got a civil service, we've got a public sector that continues to grow. We're spending huge amounts of money on this, so why not be able to trim the fat, I say?
Yeah, Samuel, Brendan's got a point, hasn't he? Elon Musk came into what was known as Twitter back then, sacked 6,000 staff, 80% of the workforce, and arguably, according to X today, as it's now known, usage is at an all-time high.
Well, usage may be at an all-time high in regards to Twitter or X, but the shares and the stock price of Twitter did plunge massively after that. And of course, the safeguards that have been removed by Elon Musk has essentially turned so much of that part of the internet into a really, really dark and toxic place. I struggle to see how using him as an influence, particularly in the UK government, particularly when you consider as well, his history in terms of being the CEO of Tesla, when you consider that the stocks and shares of the 10 wealthiest people in the world have gone up after Donald Trump's election.
Well, that's because the stock market's had a boost. It's gone up. Of course they're going to make money on their shares. What do you make of the UK government waste, though? Look, 100 million on the bats for HS2. Apparently, the trains won't affect the bats anyway. And as far as I remember, there are no bats in the area to begin with. The civil service has ballooned to 90,000. The Tories wanted to cut 60,000 jobs, which Labour have scrapped. 37 billion on test and trace. There are over 600 government departments, quangos, people charging £1,000 a day as contractors. Labour's own value for money czar was on 50k a year for 1 day a week of work. Surely we can take an axe to some of that.
Well, sure, maybe there is a lot of wasting in government, but my personal thing is that I think we need to be looking more at investment in public services, investment in our communities. We've come through 14 punishing years as a country of cuts and austerity. Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer haven't really pledged to do anything other than continue that austerity, or maybe dilute it ever so slightly. But the focus, I think, has to be on investment in those public services. We need to be looking at job creation. We need to be looking at, tackling issues like the climate crisis. We need to be putting money into things to make our country better, not cutting away at the edges.
Brendan, what do you make of that? 14 years of hell you've inflicted on this country, your old lot.
Well, the thing is, we didn't get very great value for money before, and I think it would be a mistake to basically compare what Keir Starmer's doing as well. His Office for Value for Money is a bit more of a tick box exercise. You mentioned the person they've got running it now, of course, who worked on HS2 before, and you mentioned the bats, that's one example, and something else is the restoration of Parliament. And I know myself, from my time there, there's a lot of masonry falling off, a lot of work that needs doing there, and it's costing the public a fortune. So there's not a great track record of saving money. And even if you look at things like the winter fuel allowance, the relatively small amount of money that's being saved there, if any at all, or the VAT on private schools and so on, and it's just not something we do well. But I think in terms of core services, no one's talking about cutting core services. We put more money into the NHS than ever before. It's actually about efficiency as well. And if you look at the size of the state that's there, really, and I think there are a lot of things that we actually do, that were requirements we put on business that we don't need to do anymore. If you look at all the diversity czars, you look at all the things to do with climate change, that's something
well, Brendan, yes,
as well as the public sector.
Indeed. Samuel, so local councils over the past 3 years have spent £52 million on equality, diversity and inclusion roles. Surely, by your argument, that 50 million quid would be better spent on public services? Why do we need £50 million worth of equality and diversity roles?
Look, I can't speak on why we need those exact roles. I do believe that, yeah, maybe that money could be used better elsewhere in terms of providing actual council services. But let's, for 1 second, just go back to people like Elon Musk, Vivek, who, you know, Brendan is now arguing that we should take a leaf out of their book. There has been appointed to DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and it's laughable in the first place because there's two of them running it. You can't walk around talking about how we need to cut middle management, we need to cut this job, we need to cut that job, when literally the department we're having this conversation about now has two people running it, and it's completely transparent as to...
Two people? I mean, that's not a lot of people. You've got 90,000 civil servants here, two people running one government department in the US. I mean, it's hardly comparable.
Between Donald Trump, Vivek, and Elon Musk, what is their collective net worth? And they're going to be professing to be looking at spending money wisely. What they're going to be doing is cutting away at the fabric of society. They're going to be cutting departments. The American federal minimum wage has been the same since July 2009. If they're going to be saving money, are they going to be investing in, say, universal health care for all Americans? Are they going to be looking at ending that horrendous record of real terms pay cut that American citizens have suffered? I don't think so. It's nothing more than a billionaire boys club who are coming together to profess some sort of financial prudency that...
I don't know why you keep mentioning the fact they're billionaires and they're rich. I mean, what does that have to do with it?
Because how can they talk about...
Do you not like people who are successful, Samuel?
I think that people who have an obscene level of wealth need to be paying more taxes. Matter of fact, I mean, as I said earlier on, the 10 wealthiest people in the whole world when Trump was elected, on his record, they know exactly, like, their money has gone up. Their worth has gone up by $64 billion in the space of one day because they know the kind of president...
But everybody else's net worth has gone up as well. If you invested in stocks and shares in the US, and many ordinary US citizens have 401ks, they're invested by default into the stock market, they would have enjoyed a bullish return as well. So I'm not sure what your point was on that. Brendan, last word to you.
The hundreds I want these people with obscene wealth to come to the UK, and I want them to invest. And wouldn't that be great? And if we can get a trade deal with this newly slimmed down government in the United States, if else can follow suit, get a nice trade deal with the US, and we can see a bit of growth. So it's nice to have a pro-British president in for once.
Yeah, indeed. Brendan, thank you. Samuel, thank you for your time this evening. So who do you agree with at home? Does the UK need its own Department of Government Efficiency? Dylan on X says, yes, we do, but this country is governed by weak men, so it will never happen. I don't know who you're talking about there, Dylan. I can't imagine. Judy on X says, if there was such a role in the UK, this channel would be calling it woke. And your verdict is now in. 95% of you agree the UK needs a similar role, while just 5% of you, including our friend Judy there, think that we don't. Great stuff. Coming up, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting's been talking tough today, and he's vowed to sack hospital bosses that fail to slash waiting times. So is he right to go after the fat cat NHS bosses who are raking it in but delivering a poor service? The former Chief Medical Officer of Bupa, Dr Andrew Vallance-Owen, joins me next.
Evening. Thanks for joining me for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A lot of cloud around tomorrow. For many, it'll be a duller day compared to today. But again, for most places, not going to be much rain around. It has been a very dry start to November, thanks to high pressure by and large. Changes are on the way, particularly as we go towards the weekend. There is a weather front just slowly working south, but it's kind of fizzling out, bumping up against that high pressure. Will still bring some rain and drizzle, just trickling its way south across parts of central and eastern England through the night, eventually turning things a bit damp across the southeast. Ahead of it, temperatures could dip down to single figures, but behind it with a lot more cloud, generally a milder night than last night. Could again be some mist and fog patches forming through parts of southern Scotland where we do get the clearer spells, and it will be a damp and potentially drizzly start to the day across southernmost counties of England, so a very different feel here compared to today. Elsewhere, most places just dry and cloudy, but there will be some holes in the cloud here and there. Thick cloud, though, for northern Scotland means a dull and damp and at times drizzly morning for the Highlands and the Western Isles. Let's go through the rest of the day. Not a great deal will change. I'm hopeful the rain and drizzle in the far south should scoot away, and also that skies will brighten over central and eastern England in particular. Decent chance of seeing some sunny spells coming through. Parts of southern and eastern Scotland may also brighten up, but for many it will just stay pretty drab. Where it does, 10 or 11 the top temperature, bit of brightness, could see those temperatures getting up into the teens, and again the wind's fairly light for most places. Friday we'll start to see a change, but again for most it'll be dry. Some light rain and drizzle over northern England, North Wales, turning wetter in the far northwest and windier here as well. This is an active weather front that's going to bring a change, getting gusty and turning soggy. Further south, generally dry with some sunshine, 10 or 11 degrees Celsius, but it's going to turn colder for all of us through the weekend.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Patrick Christys tonight with me, Ben Leo, only on GB News. Now, Labour will show no mercy to NHS hospital bosses who fail to cut waiting times and stick to budgets. That's what the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, announced today as part of his plan to reform the NHS. Streeting also vowed to sack underperforming hospital chiefs and introduce a zero-tolerance approach to failure within the health service. He also pledged to introduce a performance league table that will rank all NHS services and expose the worst-performing hospitals. I'm now joined by former Medical Director and Chief Medical Officer at Bupa, Dr Andrew Vallance-Owen. Good evening. Thank you for joining me. First questions first. Is Wes Streeting right to go after NHS bosses in this way? A league table of shame, Dr Andrew.
Well, I have to say I'm not supporting the Elon Musk approach, which you were just talking about before, but we do need to have much greater accountability of the senior management in the NHS, definitely. On the one hand, there's meddling from the Department of Health and other civil servants who aren't in the front line. They should be allowed to be accountable for their own businesses, if you like, for their own hospitals or whatever it is. And that will mean that if things go wrong and they don't perform according to whatever the requirements are, which I'd like to come back to, then yes, they should move over to somebody else. But what should not happen is what happens at the moment. You get a sort of move round. They fail in one hospital, and you know, a year later you find them running another hospital down the road. You know, it's not the way to do it either. We've got to train better managers who stay in post and make changes. But the problem is, how do you measure that performance? And you know, if measuring performance means just cost cutting, that's not what we need in the NHS. We must have a situation where we're measuring whether patients are actually getting better, they are getting a benefit from the NHS, and you know, work that out and how much that costs, and try to be really tight on that. The front line is where the money should go, not to the people behind the scenes who are. They may think they're very important, but actually it's our nurses, our doctors, the physiotherapists who are actually the people who are important in the NHS, and they're not being given enough recognition at the moment by, I think, the senior management.
So in your own experience, off the top of your head, what's some of the key and most obvious places we can improve here? By doing what? Can you give any practical solutions on how to instantly improve the NHS at different trusts, failing trusts?
Well, instantly improving is not something which is easy to think up. But it's got to be run more on business lines, I think. I mean, I've worked in business, as you said earlier on, but I've also been on the boards of NHS trusts, and there is an awful lot of bureaucracy and in the middle, which is not about what is going on in the front line. We hear that consultants are spending 30% of their time doing paperwork and doing, data analysis and things like that, which is ridiculous. These are very expensive resources, so they must put more money into the tech, into artificial intelligence, to enable nurses and doctors and others to spend much more time actually treating patients. That'll be certainly one of the things. And we should be measuring whether patients are getting better or not. We measure experience, and he's talking about quality of service. Yes, of course, quality of service is important, but it's no good having a great doctor who's very nice to you and all the rest of it if the patient doesn't get better and isn't getting an improvement. And we should routinely measure that and measure the service on that as part of performance.
I know you mentioned Elon Musk there. You said you weren't too fond of the idea of him taking a flamethrower to government, but you've mentioned there's too many middle managers in the NHS on fat salaries, six-figure salaries. Surely, I'm not saying we get Elon Musk over to take charge of it, but surely we need to do something similar to that.
We do. We do need to have a real look at what people are doing and whether it is actually acting value for the front line or not. I mean, my niece is a surgeon. I mean, she's only just over 30, but she was already doing operations already, and she was earning 45,000. A friend of hers, same age, on the management training scheme, is earning 75. I mean, it's ridiculous that the balance is wrong. The priority should be towards, as I say, towards the front line where the fundamental work of the NHS is done.
What do you make of Wes Streeting? Because I've said in certainly today off the back of this policy, which some of our viewers quite liked, I've suggested he may be one of the most capable Labour cabinet members. What's your personal thoughts about his quality and his attributes?
I think he's made a good start. He's got good ideas. I mean, I think having this plan, which is going to take a year to work through, I'm not sure, they need action now. It'll be very important to hear what the public think and what they think should be done. But no, I think he's made a good start. And starting with the senior leadership that drives the NHS is a very important area, I think. Yeah. But I think he's starting off doing a good job. But delivery is the important thing. Yeah. And Blair set up league tables and put a lot of money into reducing waiting lists. That was the priority, and very clearly. And down came the waiting lists. Yeah. And you have to set really tight priorities, and that's what he needs to do, and tell them that that's what they have to perform against.
OK, Dr. Andrew Vallance-Owen, thank you for joining me this evening. Really appreciate it. I know some of you on gbnews.com/you're saying, Ben, what the hell are you talking about? Wes Streeting, one of the most capable. Honestly, he's one of the very few Labour cabinet members that actually has the balls to come onto this channel and speak to us and be held to account. And he's done some questionable things in the past, laughing at the shutdown of that Conservative conference in Belgium, was it? Making some silly schoolboy jokes at the dispatch box. But I quite like this policy they're suggesting now. And compared to the other cabinet members, I mean, I don't think Wes Streeting's that far off being one of the most capable. Anyway, coming up, Britain could be facing its first ever farming strike on Sunday, and there's warnings of food shortages and significant price increases if farmers decide to stop all produce from leaving their farms. Well done, Labour. So, is it not time Sir Keir Starmer U-turned on his farmers' inheritance raid? I'll be joined next by the farmer Tess Weldon, who's got some harsh words for this Labour government.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners, Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
The Daily Mail now, Josh, and pub landlords have to worry about more than the optics when it comes to offensive banter,
Yeah,
it
this
seems.
is a really big story and important. Pub landlords could have to become banter cops to stop themselves being sued by staff offended by comments from customers under workers' rights reform. So, Labour, when they were part of their election process, they were like, we're going to reform workers' rights, and that all sounds good on paper, but there were issues in terms of how might it affect employees and fear from employees costing them more money. One of these things that they're sort of pushing through, though, is that in the Equality Act of 2010, part of the issue was that if you were offended at work or someone said something sexist or racist, something that affected you, the employer had to take some sort of, they had three chances to kind of take action.
Yeah.
Now, the employer has to should have taken action already. So employees can sue employers. Now, this has a big impact on us because we're comics and we perform in venues. And if some of the bar staff hear a joke that they don't like, then they can sue their employer, potentially, under this legislation.
So it's not punters?
Well, also, it could be like you're at a bar and some bloke is like, oh, I like that top, or whatever. That's not good behaviour. But the point is now that employee could sue their employer.
So, because, I mean, the sort of scenario I was imagining was that a barmaid was being maybe sexually harassed or
That's
something.
what they're focusing in this article, but other articles have gone down the free speech route. Okay. And also venues and universities having lectures. We saw it at, in Edinburgh Fringe Festival and Sadowitz. He had a show cancelled not because of any punters, but because two of the 18-year-olds were working. They were upset.
There was a bar in Brighton, wasn't there? There was a story we covered a few weeks ago. A bar in Brighton threw some people out.
Exactly. They had turfs on the.
Turfs. Yeah. GB News, the People's Channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets and my take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Patrick Christys tonight with me, Ben Leo, only on GB News. Now, the UK could be facing its first farming strike this Sunday in protest at the government's inheritance tax crackdown. The Welsh pressure group Enough is Enough has called on farmers nationwide to stop produce from leaving their farms after the Chancellor announced in her budget that a 20% inheritance tax rate would be imposed on agricultural land worth more than £1 million. And there are warnings tonight that the strike could result in food shortages and significant price increases for shoppers. Thousands of farmers are already planning to descend on Westminster next week in protest over the tax rate. The Prime Minister's defended the decision today.
I'm absolutely committed to supporting our farmers. I said that before the election and I say it after the election. That is why in our budget last week I was very pleased that we're investing £5 billion of our budget over the next 2 years into farming. That is really important for our farmers.
I'm joined now by the farmer and political consultant Tess Weldon to discuss this. Good evening, Tess. Thank you for joining me. Look, quite frankly, what a mess it appears for such a paltry return of just over £1 billion in inheritance tax. Jeremy Clarkson reckons that farmers are being treated as second-class citizens. What's your take on that?
I couldn't agree more. The fact is that Labour hates farmers. They hate the fact that we have accidents. They hate the fact that we leave mud on the roads. They don't like the fact they don't like our dogs. They don't like shooting. They don't like hunting. They don't like the fact that we have fields and we have land. They think that we sit around, we drink gin, we walk around our land and we go, oh, this is a really good day. And then maybe we take a nap, we go and drink in the pub and then we go to sleep. That's not the case. Farming is a lifestyle. We work and work and work from daybreak to nightfall. And then after that, we work in our workshops to fix things. Farming is something that you give your entire life to, and it's a generational thing. But Labour don't care. Labour want farms to sell off land every single generation. Why? They want us to sell off land so that they can actually put houses on that. They want to build on the Greenbelt. They've already said that. And if they build on the Greenbelt and they put terraced houses on it, then they can put people in the terraced houses, they can give them public sector jobs, and then those people with public sector jobs are reliant on Labour staying in power. They're reliant on a large state. So they're trying to create a client state.
So excuse my ignorance, maybe you can clue me up on this, but if that is to happen and the farms go and they build houses or whatever else, who's going to produce the food in Britain?
Nobody. We're not going to have any food security in Britain. We're going to rely on Europe and America and New Zealand for our lamb, America for our beef, which is produced at far lower standards. The food standards in Britain are far higher than the ones in the European Union, in New Zealand and in the United States.
Right.
And the fact is that if you care about, as Labour professes to care about, green and, making sure that we don't have carbon emissions and that we don't have anthropogenic climate change, then regardless of what you think about it, if you care about it, then you want food produced in Britain. But they don't care.
So, look, this shortage could come as soon as next week because farmers are planning to strike from this Sunday. Practically, how would that happen?
Well, farmers can't strike in the same way that any other industry strikes. We still have to look after our animals. We still have to plough the fields. We still have to make sure if crops are ready to be harvested, we harvest them. So we will create an artificial shortage. And it will happen because we are sick of it. Farmers don't want to strike. We're happy to go out in rain, in sleet, in shine, whatever the weather. But we will stop taking our animals to market. We will stop taking our grain to market. And therefore, we will just keep everything. We'll just keep the lambs back for a month and prices will skyrocket. Yes, people can get in...
How soon would prices... As a consumer, if you're going to Tesco to do your Christmas shopping, how soon would they feel that effect?
Oh, within 2 weeks, easily. And we can keep the pressure on, because as long as we have the knowledge that as soon as we take our animals to market, we'll be able to sell them, and the prices will just go up and up and up, then we're able to keep the pressure on. And farmers are sick of what the government is doing, sick of the Labour government, but also sick of what the Tory government has done before them. We've been pushed and pushed and pushed, and we have no margins left.
So, look, you alluded to it at the top of this conversation. Labour would argue, and their supporters would argue, that you're rocking round on quad bikes in these massive estates, sprawling grounds worth millions and millions of pounds. Why shouldn't you pay your fair share of inheritance tax? Everybody else does. And also, by the way, they also say that Jeremy Clarkson, back when he bought his farm in Oxfordshire, he even said on the record that partially he bought it because it was a favourable tax break.
Sure, if you have millions and millions of pounds and you buy a farm and you don't plan to actually farm it, Jeremy Clarkson's been very clear that the way that he farms is because he has money from Amazon and other people. He doesn't farm commercially. Other people farm and their great-great-great-great-grandfather bought it when the land was worth nothing. Now land is worth an awful lot. The average farm is about 217 acres, and 40 acres is worth £1 million on average, which means that almost every single farm is going to be hit by this inheritance tax change. The difference is we don't get that much revenue off of our land. The margins are very small. We farm because we love it. We farm because we care for the environment. We farm because we care for the wildlife. We farm because we want people to be able to go across British countryside and still have it look the way it did 200 years ago.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? With the strikes on Sunday, or the strikes, quote-unquote, I know you won't be able to strike like, say, office workers.
Well, we certainly won't be taking things to market, that's for sure.
Could this scupper Christmas for Brits? If this war between you and the government rages on and they don't U-turn, I don't know if you expect Keir Starmer to U-turn on this decision. As I said, it doesn't raise that much money in the grand scheme of things. Could Christmas be scuppered in terms of shopping, festivities, celebrations?
We certainly expect that Keir Starmer, if he sees any sense, will turn around and at least step back from his decision. If he doesn't, then it's proof that Labour not only don't want to listen to their constituents, don't want to listen to the new people who have elected Labour in the countryside, but don't give a damn about farmers. And, yeah, it will absolutely screw Christmas. It will put up prices and it will leave people, really struggling to put turkeys on the table.
Tess, tell me, because Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves and Labour, throughout the election and even post-election, during the budget, they were saying we're not going to raise taxes on working people. And I've always argued that there's nobody who works harder than a farmer. You're up at the crack of dawn, you go to bed at the last thing at night, and you do it again and again and again. I don't think you do it for the money, quite frankly.
We do it for the love of it.
Yeah. So how do you feel when Keir Starmer says you're not a working person, you don't graft. And by the way, at the same time, when Downing Street says Keir Starmer, who's on a six-figure salary, gets freebies from Lord Ali, £2.5 specs, free Arsenal tickets, Taylor Swift tickets, racing tickets, they say he's a working person. How do you feel about that?
Because someone that pushes paper around all day and sits and defers things to his ministers is definitely a working person, right? He's not. We're working people, and you're absolutely right that there is nobody that works harder than rural communities. And I'm not just talking about farmers. I would be remiss if I said that it's just farmers. It is the vets, it is the farriers, it is the people in shops, it is all the rural community. And frankly, it's not just us, it's the people that run small businesses. They're also having Labour put taxes on small businesses that are run by people that are in the United Kingdom, as Lord Dyson said in his open letter yesterday.
Are you heading to London next week for the protest on Tuesday?
Absolutely, I'll be here for
What do you expect that to look like? Because at the moment they're saying there's going to be no tractors, there's going to be no heavy machinery, but I don't know, there's whispers that there's going to be some combine harvesters, maybe not as big as that, but rolling down Whitehall.
I don't think that you'll be able to know from the outside what the process will look like until you see it, because people are not signing up on that protest link that you might see going around on Facebook.
Yeah.
The reason is that protest link is connected to the NFU, it's connected to DEFRA, and farmers are worried that DEFRA will then target them for going out and protesting. There are a whole load of farmers that will turn up that no one will know are turning up. We're going to turn up with our tractors, we're going to turn up with our muck spreaders. If the muck spreaders happen to turn around and spread muck at Whitehall, who cares? There's enough mucks being spread around. Who cares if we put some more around?
I guess, I mean,
they're used to it, right?
DEFRA would deny that they're going to target protesters. And I also would think if Just Stop Oil were doing the same thing, then probably lots of people would be outraged about it.
Maybe if we painted our tractors with the intersectional pride flag, if we all wore burqas and if we all chanted Free Palestine while we were there in our tractors, then maybe Labour would leave us alone and actually support us in protesting, like they support the Free Palestine protests, like they support the LGBT marches.
OK. Just finally, one word. Do you see this coming to a resolution anytime soon, or do you think Labour and Starmer will stand firm?
If Starmer sees sense, that would be good. If not, then we will just continue and keep pushing him until he does. OK. Tess Weldon, thank you very much. You're a farmer and political consultant, and we'll keep tabs on Sunday and indeed Tuesday. Thank you, Tess. Thank you.
All right, coming up at 10 p.m.
I'm not ashamed that people come to my house with a really crazy overreaction to something that should just be let go. It's trying to shape the morality of the population, right? It's thought control.
Can you believe it? Telegraph columnist and friend of the show, Alison Pearson, is facing a hate crime investigation over a social media post. So is this not yet more proof that freedom of speech is in grave danger? And as Alison suggests, another example of two-tier policing. I'll tackle that next.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening. Thanks for joining me for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A lot of cloud around tomorrow. For many, it'll be a duller day compared to today. But again, for most places, not going to be much rain around. It has been a very dry start to November, thanks to high pressure by and large. Changes are on the way, particularly as we go towards the weekend. There is a weather front just slowly working south, but it's kind of fizzling out, bumping up against that high pressure. Will still bring some rain and drizzle, just trickling its way south across parts of central and eastern England through the night, eventually turning things a bit damp across the southeast. Ahead of it, temperatures could dip down to single figures, but behind it with a lot more cloud, generally a milder night than last night. Could again be some mist and fog patches forming through parts of southern Scotland where we do get the clearer spells, and it will be a damp and potentially drizzly start to the day across southernmost counties of England, so a very different feel here compared to today. Elsewhere, most places just dry and cloudy, but there will be some holes in the cloud here and there. Thick cloud, though, for northern Scotland means a dull and damp and at times drizzly morning for the Highlands and the Western Isles. Let's go through the rest of the day. Not a great deal will change. I'm hopeful the rain and drizzle in the far south should scoot away, and also that skies will brighten over central and eastern England in particular. Decent chance of seeing some sunny spells coming through. Parts of southern and eastern Scotland may also brighten up, but for many it will just stay pretty drab. Where it does, 10 or 11 the top temperature, bit of brightness, could see those temperatures getting up into the teens, and again the wind's fairly light for most places. Friday we'll start to see a change, but again for most it'll be dry. Some light rain and drizzle over northern England, North Wales, turning wetter in the far northwest and windier here as well. This is an active weather front that's going to bring a change, getting gusty and turning soggy. Further south, generally dry with some sunshine, 10 or 11 degrees Celsius, but it's going to turn colder for all of us through the weekend.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about.
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. This is Patrick Christys tonight with me, Ben Leo.
I'm not ashamed that people come to my house with a really crazy overreaction to something that should just be let go. It's trying to shape the morality of the population, right? It's thought control.
Dear, oh dear. Woke police visit Alison Pearson on Remembrance Sunday to suggest she's tweeted a hate crime. Meanwhile, we're releasing paedophiles and wife beaters from prison. Have we reached peak Orwell?
How do I look? Slaying. Maya. Fabulous.
Really? She'll love that.
Robin.
Oh, that's very them.
Boots the Chemist does its best to wreck Christmas with an inane new ad. My pronouns tonight are do and one. Also, Lineker's going, Welby's gone, and now The Guardian are quitting Twitter. Nature appears to be healing. But why are the left so insistent on living in an echo chamber? The first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages are minutes away too, and tonight's panel are ready to go. I'm joined by the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and the broadcaster and journalist Judita De Silva. Oh, and Donald Trump meets one of his voters.
Mr. President-elect and former President, thank you. Donald, congratulations. Thank you.
Freedom of speech is under attack. Next.
A very good evening to you. The time is just after 10 and these are your latest headlines. We're going to start this hour with some breaking news. What's being described as pension megafunds are set to be created by the Labour government to help unlock billions of investments in businesses and infrastructure. Tomorrow, the Chancellor is expected to deliver a speech at Mansion House in which she's set to outline this overhaul in Britain's pension fund industry. Rachel Reeves is expected to say that by consolidating assets into a handful of funds run by professional managers, it will allow them to invest more into various assets. The government has also said these reforms could unlock £80 billion of investment into exciting new businesses and critical infrastructure. Over in the US now, and President-elect Donald Trump has been hosted by current President Joe Biden. The two sat down at the White House this afternoon for a meeting designed to demonstrate a smooth handover of power. The Reuters news agency reported that during the meeting, Biden told Trump he was, quote, looking forward to a peaceful transition, whilst Trump stated that, in his words, politics is tough, but it's a nice world today. The leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch, has criticised Sir Keir Starmer at PMQs today. That was over council tax, national insurance contributions and the budget. The Conservative leader also pressed the PM on decisions he made at the COP29 climate summit in Baku.
Mr. Speaker, I welcome the Prime Minister back from his trip to Azerbaijan, where he has unilaterally made commitments that will make life more experienced for everyone back home.
I'm very proud of the fact that we're restoring leadership on climate to this country, to the UK, because that will be measured in lower bills on energy independence and the jobs of the future. And in relation, and she may have missed, but on Monday I was very pleased to announce a huge order into jobs in Hull for blades for offshore wind. If she's opposed to that sort of action, she should go to Hull and say so.
Residents in the Spanish region of Valencia have been preparing for further heavy rain and storms just 2 weeks after flash flooding caused devastation across the country. A Spanish weather agency issued an amber warning yesterday, forecasting between 40 and 120 millimetres of rain for the area. Residents have been advised to stay at home and volunteers have been told to pause their clean-up efforts while further safety preparation measures are put into place. Another weather story now, and authorities in Indonesia are racing to evacuate remaining villagers around an erupting volcano. Mount Luatobi Laki-Laki on Flores Island erupted last week, but is continuing to spew out lava and towering columns of ash. Local authorities are reporting that 15,000 people have been evacuated, with at least 63 injuries and damage to around 2,500 houses. The UK Foreign Office has issued a travel warning for the region. For now, those are your latest GB News headlines. I'm Sophie Reaper. More from me in the next hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening. Crimes are going unsolved and paedophiles are being released from prison because jails are too full. Meanwhile, the likes of Hugh Edwards walks the streets a free man, while a bloke who sold access to Premier League football games gets 3 years in the slammer. That happened, by the way. If you thought that was bad, what happens with friend of the show and Telegraph columnist Alison Pearson really takes the biscuit. 2 young coppers knocked on her door on Remembrance Sunday just as she was leaving the house to commemorate our war heroes, the same men who died for our right to free speech and freedom of expression. Alison's alleged crime? Firing off a tweet that offended somebody last year. She's now being investigated for a so-called non-hate crime incident. Par for the course in Britain today, Alison wasn't told what the tweet was or the name of the snowflake who cried to the police after getting offended by something they saw online. This is what she told Nigel Farage earlier this evening.
Well, I said to them, how would I defend myself if I don't know any of the relevant details? And they looked a bit, again, a bit confused. I think they may have been on a sort of bacon roll run when they were told to come up. But it was, I'll tell you, Nigel, it was shocking. It was upsetting. I'm a law-abiding person. Nobody likes to... I respect the police. I want to trust and respect the police. This seemed to me a completely mad overreaction.
What happened to Alison Pearson is living proof of our two-tier justice system. Boris Johnson waded in tonight, saying, "This is appalling. How can Starmer's Britain lecture other countries about free speech when an innocent journalist gets a knock on the door for a tweet? Our police have their hands full of burglaries and violent crime. They're being forced to behave now like a woke Securitat, and it has to stop." And Alison wrote in her Telegraph column, "I am told by a senior Home Office source that chief constables like NCHIs, non-hate crime incidents, because they win them brownie points from various pressure groups. Good news, we recorded 15 NCHIs for Islamophobia this month." So look, I want to know who these nefarious pressure groups are and what kind of person reads something on the internet they don't like before telling the police about it. And whilst we're here, let's take a closer look at Essex Police, shall we, the force who paid Alison a visit on Sunday. In the year to August, Essex cops solved just 9% of sexual offences, 6% of burglaries and 2% of vehicle thefts. So if your car gets nicked or a junkie ransacks your house, forget telling the police about it because they're too busy monitoring people's opinions. And apparently pulling Nazi salutes and goose-stepping in public, well, that's all OK too.
He's just gone to a Nazi salute. He's just gone for it on a Nazi salute in front of you. You saw that.
So that copper there, the clip goes on, that copper says to that man who's complaining about the Nazi salute, she says, I'm just trying to find out where he's gone. In my book, a totally useless and incompetent officer in Brighton struggling to find out where the Nazi went. Well, why don't you try using your legs and going after him, maybe? Or is crawling social media for hurty words a bigger priority? Now, look, there are many, many decent, hard-working police officers up and down the country, but they're being badly let down by police bosses who aren't only failing the basics, but wasting valuable time and taxpayer money on complete and utter nonsense. Let's get the thoughts of my panel now. Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, businessman and activist, Adam Brooks, and the broadcaster and journalist, Judita De Silva. Welcome back to you three. Adam Brooks, two-tier policing in action, Alison Pearson says.
Yeah,
Is she right?
I think it's pretty clear. Look, I'm a big fan of Alison. I know her. She's a very well-respected journalist. There's many MPs and parliamentarians that do not want to get on the wrong side of her. She holds people to account. She does her job well. Now, how can she have a visit for a tweet that she doesn't even know what she's tweeted? Look, people need to know this is a non-crime hate incident. Now, if it's a non-crime, why are the police getting involved? I believe we're now living under an authoritarian government with a Prime Minister that is just trying to control us, who has no idea what the average Brit thinks or how the average Brit behaves. It's dangerous times.
Alison talks about pressure groups. Who do you think is behind it?
Look, there's many pressure groups around there. You've got people like Hope Not Hate that try and stop people advertising on shows like this. There's many... I mean, it could be a similar group, I don't know, but there are people out there that are trying to shut down people who tell the truth or go against the narrative. Yeah. I mean, how I haven't had a knock on the door from my ex-account, I do not know. And now, looking at this, I'm pretty worried.
There's still time, Adam. There's still time, maybe at the weekend. Hope Not Hate, I think they have... Well, they would deny at least that they're behind this incident with Alison, but... yeah, Judita, what's your thoughts on this whole sorry episode? It is Orwellian, don't you agree?
Not really. I think that where basically everyone's exploiting the fact that there's a limited amount of information to kind of pump up the position they already occupy. Because the key thing we do need to know is who accused her and what was the tweet. And also, when the tweet was put, or the X was put out, did she instinctively delete it? Which means that somebody of her pedigree and her intelligence knows that she wrote something she shouldn't have. So upon self-policing, you took it down, so you know something was wrong in that tweet. So she's being slightly disingenuous by saying that, oh, what could it be? And then she said in that same interview that she took it down. So then, once we have that information, it's a more three-dimensional understanding of what we're dealing with here. But it speaks to a greater problem. Social media is effectively becoming a cesspool, and particularly X under Elon Musk's reign, where he's like an advocate for free speech, but no, you're creating fertile ground for hate speech, which does incite violence.
Even if that were true, even if X is a cesspit and there's all sorts of language on there that you don't like and thoughts and opinions and whatever else, does that mean... I mean, do you agree with Adam when he says this is an authoritarian government? Should the government be stepping in to clear up hurty words online, whether you like it or not?
No, I think that they're setting a precedent that's going to recalibrate society, and it is needed because things are reaching a point where it's beyond the point of return.
Such as what? Can you give an example?
No, hate speech does incite crimes. It does... because think about it, social media is used as like a gathering point for everybody knowing that there is a collective that thinks like me, let's move as one. It's effectively a platform for propaganda, which can be pointed in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I mean, look, where I do agree with you is there is an information gap here. And it's at least possible that someone could say something on X that is a crime or provokes a crime. It's possible, and Alison can't recall this tweet, so we don't know what it is.
Well, they haven't even told her.
They haven't even told her. That's the scary part here. I can imagine a scenario in which somebody's tweeted something on Twitter that causes a riot or a crime. You'd obviously get a knock at the door. What is absolutely outrageous here is there wasn't a knock at the door to say, you said this, here's a copy of the tweet. We are worried that this then led to this, and that you are therefore causally connected to this. All of that should have been completely reported and upfront to her. She can't recall what the tweet was. Essex Police know what it was. It should have been explained to her exactly. Police officers often deal with things which aren't yet crimes. You might see a gang of lads hanging around on the street corner causing a little bit of a ruckus. No crime's been committed yet, but you go along and explain what your problem might be. Essex Police have explained nothing to Alison Pearson.
But that's what
and
I
if
say,
you can't do that, you have no business knocking on her door.
There's a grey area because that's what I'm saying, we don't know all the pieces. We are completely agreed in unison that there needs to be more information and more full disclosure, but then up to a point, because you never know that who they're calling the victim might feel that this particular person with the platform she has could be detrimental to them. Should she know she's that person?
They should at least told her what the tweet was.
Yes, they should.
And why it cleared the threshold that the police needed to turn up to her house on a Sunday morning.
I do think it's indicative that she was aware something was wrong if she herself said she took it down.
Let me just clarify
that
something.
Could just be she thought it was discourteous. The police do know what this tweet is. Essex Police's press statement is lamentable.
Yeah.
They should have been able to explain, if you are going to somebody's house on a Sunday morning, the specific nature of the problem, not necessarily the complainant.
Let me get Adam's
let me just correct something here. All these left-wing commentators are saying X has become a cesspool and
They're all leaving, Adam. The Guardian's quit tonight.
Right, look, at the end of the day, over the last 5 years, I've had threats, some against my life. I've had my businesses targeted. On a daily basis, I am called all sorts of names and threatened, and it all comes from the left or people on the left. So this notion that it has suddenly become a right-wing cesspool is an absolute joke. They're not getting their own way.
That isn't accurate. I never said it was right-wing. I said it's a cesspool.
The left are not getting their own way now. We've got community notes that keep things in check. Even Elon Musk himself has been community noted. This is a fair platform that allows truth. So at the end of the day, we are the media now, and they do not like it.
Let me get the thoughts of Janita. Specifically, what you say X/Twitter and social media, the wider aspects of it, is a cesspool. Can you give some examples? You say it's propaganda.
I can use personal reference that the kinds of things that are said to me, it's all racially driven, it's misogynistic, and because it's free speech.
Well, I don't see any of that on my feed.
Oh, do I? That's why I'm actually going to be joining Lineker. I'm leaving X as well because.
Are you going to post about it and tell everyone like?
I'm not that self-congratulatory.
Because it's messy.
But the thing is,
isn't it? Free speech is.
This is the thing. We are basically describing effectively what the problem is. You've created a space where people who think that way know I'm safe to vent and say spew all the bile I have within me, and they'll call it free speech. Why is it when they give you freedom you have to be abusive?
Well, I don't think you have to, but in my book, if you want to be abusive, that is free speech. I don't agree with it. I think people should be kind to each other, but that is free speech. If you police hurty words and offensive words, that's not free speech. Can I ask you though, Juditha, what are you complaining about the propaganda on social media when the old Twitter regime was censoring the Hunter Biden laptop story during the 2020 election? They lied and said it was Russian disinformation. 51 ex-intelligence officers put their name down saying, yeah, this is Russian disinfo. That, according to Donald Trump, he argues that swayed part of the election. Were you complaining then about the propaganda and censorship?
I am 100% across the board that there should not be censorship, there should not be editing of information.
That's the point. Were you and your colleagues on the left side of the debate vocal about it as you are now Elon Musk? Because I don't remember you being...
Everyone should have fair platform to speak to their causes and what they believe in. The way you do it, the way you execute it is the problem. If you feel that you can only elevate yourself to the detriment of someone else, you have a problem. You have a problematic character.
But that's courtesy, not crime. The problem is we've started to regulate courtesy, and that Essex Police have no business there. Yes, nasty things are said, abusive things are said. Donald Trump was taken off the platform, crying out loud, right? But courtesy is about civil society policing itself, not about Essex Police policing us.
If you have a government that doesn't show endeavours to to perpetuate civil society, then you're effectively
we have to do it ourselves.
Chaos.
OK.
Civil society is different to the government.
Got a statement from Essex Police. They have said the report relates to a social media post which was subsequently removed. An investigation is now being carried out under Section 17 of the Public Order Act. As part of that investigation, officers attended an address on Sunday, November the 10th, to invite a woman to attend a voluntary interview on the matter. Well, there we go. Well, Alison writes in her column she was getting ready to go to a Remembrance Sunday service to commemorate, as she writes, all the brave war heroes who died for our right to free speech and freedom of expression. And then she had these two young coppers. She didn't blame them personally. She said they were doing their job, but had these two young coppers knocking on her door for a tweet. I mean, it's insane in my book. It's just insane. Anyway, there's 2 weeks left to grab a chance to win Christmas on Us in the Great British Giveaway. That's £25,000 and £25 in tax-free cash, plus a whole host of Christmas goodies to ensure you have a very, very good time. And the best news is we'll get it to you in time for the big day. Time's running out, though, to get your entries in. Here's all the details you need for a chance to win. All right, talking of Christmas, can you spot why the Boots Christmas ad, the new one, has sparked such outrage?
How do I look? Slaying. Maya.
Fabulous.
Really?
She'll love that.
Robin.
Oh, that's very them.
I'll give you a clue. It's yet more woke madness. But across the pond, Donald Trump's preparing to reverse all trans policies when he enters the White House in January. So do we need to follow suit? Founder of the trans charity See Change Happen, Joanne Lockwood, joins me next.
If you want your news to be straight talking... This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Recruiters are warning that if you're not tech-savvy, you could be missing out with your CV failing to make it through an AI-powered sifting process. So we've gone from sort of computer says no HR people ticking boxes to AI, right? Is that right?
Yes, well, this applies once you're in the job as well, as a recent report revealed that employees expect AI will manage an average of a third of their tasks within the next 12 months. Well, joining us now to discuss this is Cosmo Curry, founder of Van Kuysen, a leading company in technology recruitment.
Morning, Cosmo.
Morning. Good morning. Well, yeah, thank you for joining us. It's very interesting, isn't it? Because AI is, of course, on the rise, and now in the workplace and in universities and things. Another article came to mind. There was a student recently, I think it was in the news just the other day, that got in trouble for using AI. So there's, you know, for exam purposes and essays. So there's lots of different ways that it can be a good thing and a bad thing. But you're, of course, here to talk about the ways in which AI is a good thing within the workplace.
Absolutely. I mean, AI is here to stay, for sure. And we're seeing this rise of people using it in such a clever format. And the other side of it is also we're seeing people who are using it and during the process of that, they are losing their character. We're losing the actual insight into the individual behind that. And so we've kind of got this kind of mix. And I think AI is phenomenal when you're looking at it from a point of view of optimization, point of view of speed, getting results. But I think we have to remember that, you know, the fundamental of recruitment is people. And we cannot substitute the people, the personal aspect, by replacing that with AI.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. Patrick Christys tonight with me, Ben Leo, only on GB News. Tomorrow's newspaper front pages are coming very shortly, but first, the high street chain Boots has sparked outrage with its very woke Christmas advert, which included gender-neutral pronouns. The ad shows the Bridgerton actress Ajayo Adanhu referring to kids awaiting Christmas presents with the gender-neutral term them rather than him or her. Let's take a look.
Shall we?
How do I look? Slaying.
Maya. Fabulous.
Really?
She'll love that.
Robin.
Oh, that's very them.
The actress was, of course, the subject of over 8,000 complaints after describing the Buckingham Palace balcony as terribly white during ITV's coverage of the coronation back in May last year. And cast your minds back to Christmas last year when Marks & Spencer issued a grovelling apology after social media users complained about burning hats that resembled the colours of the Palestinian flag. Well, the UK grapples with yet more woke madness. Over in the US, meanwhile, Donald Trump is preparing to reverse trans policies with a bill making it clear there are only two genders.
No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago. Under my leadership, this madness will end.
I'm joined now by the founder and CEO of See Change Happen, Joanne Lockwood. Joanne, good evening. Donald Trump's right, isn't he? This concept of gender and pronouns was something of a mystery just some years ago.
Oh, hi, Ben. It's great to be here this evening. I've just watched that clip that you just showed there, and I'm afraid I had to chuckle. I mean, I think the world has seen President-elect Trump say some pretty crazy, off-the-wall things over the last couple of years, more so in the last couple of months. He has a view, he has an opinion, he has a voting base, and he motivates and speaks to his tribe. I can't change his opinion. The world's not going to change his opinion. We have to accept he's going to say some crazy stuff. And this is just one of the things he's talking about at the moment. History has shown over many, many millennia that trans people exist. Trans people have existed since the beginning of records began. And we still see cultures around the world that have a multitude of genders, not just male, female, non-binary. They have multiple. In fact, I'm aware that some cultures have up to 6 genders. And these are cultures that have never been touched by the internet, never been infected by any wokeism, in quotes. So genders is a social construct. We decide what there is, and for President-elect Trump to come up with these statements is typically him.
I don't want to focus on Donald Trump too much. I mean, the fact of the matter is, Joanne, is that most people watching this advert and watching people like Sam Smith who go on the One Show on BBC and say, "Fisher them," instead of fishermen. He said it again, "Fisher them." They just think it's just completely balmy. There are only around 260,000 people living in England and Wales, according to the March 2021 census, who identify with a different gender. So as much as we respect trans people, you are a minority. So the question is, why is it rammed down the public's throats so much?
Wait, is it really being rammed down the public's throat? I mean, the previous segment to this, you were talking about freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and everyone's entitled to speak freely. So what we've got now is we've got the unwoke, the anti-woke people getting really upset like snowflakes about using a couple of words in an advert. You can't have it both ways. You can't advocate for free speech and be able to talk about this freely, and then when someone correctly genders a trans person or a non-binary person by using pronouns such as they and them, we're now the anti-woke are getting upset and crying about it and saying, hang on a minute, how is this allowed?
Well, Joanne, no one's asking for the advert to be banned. I think most right-thinking people just don't understand why they need to do it. I mean, as I said, only 200,000 people in the UK identify with a made-up gender. So why, in that context, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. What is the agenda behind it? What's the point of it?
I mean, you use the phrase "made-up gender" there.
Sorry, Joanne. I really respect you. I respect trans people. I respect everybody, but they are made-up gender. I mean, there is male and there is female. If you took a trans person and mummified them and discovered them in 2,000 years and looked at their chromosomes and their body, they'd say male or female. They wouldn't say, pansexual, binary, or whatever else it is. They'd be male or female. That's just the fact of the matter.
Yeah, but we're not examining that person's brain, are we? What we're doing is we're drawing conclusions based on physical anatomy, and we know there are multiple different chromosomal types and diverse sexual developments, and there are many people with intersex. So we can't just say that there is just male and female. Come on, the world has moved on.
Well, there is. I mean, I could say that I'm a dog. And people, I could ask people to respect me as identifying as a dog, but truth be known, when it comes to it, I'm not a dog. Likewise, people who have pronouns, made-up pronouns, they are not what they say they are. Essentially, at a biological level, the fact of the matter is they are male or female. And again, I say that with respect. I don't mean to diminish anybody, but I'm just saying from a very factual point of view, they are made up. You're either male or you're female, no?
I'm not disputing the fact that one has chromosomes and chromosomal pairs, XX, XY, and people with diverse sexual development, people who are intersex, have a variety of different chromosomal makeups. I'm not saying that one's biology can ever change. What I'm saying is there's a misalignment between one's biology and one's gender. And a gender is in our society is a social construct. The definition of masculine and feminine are all made up constructs. I
get that. I get your point. I get your point, Joanne, and I respect it. But it's so niche. Why do you think Boots have done this? Why do you think they feel the need to include it? You accept it's a niche thing as well. People having different, multiple genders or pronouns. You accept it's niche. So why would a massive corporation like Boots want to do this? Do you think?
To show that their brand is inclusive of people with multiple identities and multiple genders. Whoever wrote the script for that advert clearly decided that that person's child was non-binary. Therefore, they used the correct pronouns to describe that person's child. That's simply what it was. And again, people are getting woke and anti-woke and upset about all this and crying, hang on a minute, but then they cry for free speech. You can't have free speech and then criticise people for being inclusive and using different language. If it really stresses you that much, get over it. Come on.
Yeah, well, I think the market is going to speak. Lots of people saying they will boycott Boots this Christmas at the most lucrative time of the year for them. Joanne, my only concern...
I can go and shop there without bumping into people who are going to be anti-me. I mean, that's fine. Bring it on. It'd be a safe space. Every trans person is going to flock there, their family. Yeah. Most people are within 1 degree of separation between someone who is trans or gender diverse. The world is not going to uninvent itself, just because people are getting upset. So I really appreciate it.
As a last point, my only concern would be that all this stuff, when you, and again I'll say it, you really try and ram the agenda down people's throats. When actually the fact is most people have no problem with trans people regardless. But when you go this extra step to really hammer the point home when you don't need to, I think it does the community a disservice. Your community.
Who's ramming what down whose throat?
Well, Boots is ramming pronouns down our throats. That's what's being rammed down throats.
I mean, I don't see any big shunt going down your throat here. I just see an advert celebrating Christmas, using gender-neutral pronouns that are very ubiquitous. They're not a niche thing. People have heard of them. Every person in the country is aware of pronouns. We've talked about gender-neutral pronouns, they, them. No one's ramming anything down their throat. And you have the button on your remote control, and you can press the off button. You can change if it offends you.
OK, Joanne Lockwood, CEO of See Change Happen. Thank you for joining me this evening. Let me know what you think about that at home. gbnews.com/your say. Coming up, the very first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages have just arrived. I'll bring you them in just a tick.
Evening. Thanks for joining me for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A lot of cloud around tomorrow. For many, it'll be a duller day compared to today. But again, for most places, not going to be much rain around. It has been a very dry start to November, thanks to high pressure by and large. Changes are on the way, particularly as we go towards the weekend. There is a weather front just slowly working south, but it's kind of fizzling out, bumping up against that high pressure. Will still bring some rain and drizzle, just trickling its way south across parts of central and eastern England through the night, eventually turning things a bit damp across the southeast. Ahead of it, temperatures could dip down to single figures, but behind it with a lot more cloud, generally a milder night than last night. Could again be some mist and fog patches forming through parts of southern Scotland where we do get the clearer spells, and it will be a damp and potentially drizzly start to the day across southernmost counties of England, so a very different feel here compared to today. Elsewhere, most places just dry and cloudy, but there will be some holes in the cloud here and there. Thick cloud, though, for northern Scotland means a dull and damp and at times drizzly morning for the Highlands and the Western Isles. Let's go through the rest of the day. Not a great deal will change. I'm hopeful the rain and drizzle in the far south should scoot away, and also that skies will brighten over central and eastern England in particular. Decent chance of seeing some sunny spells coming through. Parts of southern and eastern Scotland may also brighten up, but for many it will just stay pretty drab. Where it does, 10 or 11 the top temperature, bit of brightness. Could see those temperatures getting up into the teens, and again the wind's fairly light for most places. Friday we'll start to see a change, but again for most it'll be dry. Some light rain and drizzle over northern England, North Wales, turning wetter in the far northwest and windier here as well. This is an active weather front that's going to bring a change, getting gusty and turning soggy. Further south, generally dry with some sunshine, 10 or 11 degrees Celsius, but it's going to turn colder for all of us through the weekend.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. The first of tomorrow's newspapers have just dropped hot off the press. We start with the Daily Mail. Council tax to rise. Oh, of course it is. Thank you, Labour. Council tax to rise by £110 next year. Oh, goodness me. Where does it all go? The Eye. Labour will miss its new homes pledge, says official leading the plan. In an email to staff sent by the Eye, Homes England's chief says the ambitious 2029 target won't be met. The Independent revealed Donald Trump pushed to sabotage Starmer's Chagos Islands deal. We covered that at the top of the show, and there's a nice picture up the top there of Donald Trump and Joe Biden meeting in the Oval Office yesterday to signify a smooth transition of power. And wasn't Joe Biden very happy? It's almost as if he voted Trump to get back on the Dems. The Times, business backlash over the budget. Shops say speed and scale of Rachel Reeves' reforms will lead to customers paying more, staff losing jobs and economy slowing down. Oh dear. Another picture of Trump and Biden. The Guardian, Israel committing crimes against humanity in Gaza, warns report. And The Guardian is an interesting one, isn't it, panel? I'm joined again now by the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and broadcast journalist Judita De Silva. The Guardian, Judita, like a lot of people on X/Twitter today, have made a big announcement to say, I don't like this platform anymore, I'm leaving. So The Guardian are off X. What do you make of that? Are they just crying into their muesli?
No, I think that it's a bold position and one that I respect, because if you're constantly talking about the problems on X, where there's racism, bigotry, hate speech, misinformation, then why be part of it? And when an organisation as big as them with over 10 million followers says that I'm not going to be part of it anymore, you're walking the talk that you talk. And what they will prove, I believe, in time is that if they still function to the same capacity they previously have done without the use of X, it signals to other organisations you don't need it to succeed.
Yeah, interesting. You mentioned 10 million followers, but our presenter on this channel, Tom Harwood, had an interesting tweet today. He got up loads of Guardian tweets from the last couple of days, news stories and clips and pictures. The engagement rate, despite having 10 million followers, they get maybe 4 or 5 likes on a post.
My X account gets far more views than the Guardian's, and they've got 10 million followers. That stinks.
That's just indicative of the tone. We talked about it before. There's been a tonal shift of formerly Twitter, now X, under Elon Musk. And he is benefiting from creating a haven for the kind of people that spew the kind of bile that Guardian doesn't want to be part of.
And I'll counter that again by saying over the last 5 years, I've had hatred and bile from the left.
Which is wrong too.
And I've stayed on, I've fought back, and now I've come out the other side.
Which is your choice.
It just shows that many on the left do not have the guts or the courage.
No, they're making their
to do
stand
that.
in a different way, because your way of making a stand is a valid one and one that you take through with your own agency, which is I shall stay and face it. Other people say that I want no part of that.
But Judita, they will come back. Labour MPs said in the summer, I think it was Jess Phillips, I'm off, looks like we're off. She's been tweeting since. They're hypocrites.
Why do you think people... What is the psychology behind people going on Twitter, X today, and saying, I'm leaving, I'm going to another platform, I'm going... All these big announcements.
Yeah.
So if you're at a house party, right, and it's rubbish...
You just leave.
go around the whole house saying, guys, by the way, I'm going home. Guys, in the corner, I'm going home. You just leave.
Well, I think it actually speaks to the Guardian's editorial position is the same as Judita's, that they wanted to make it plain that they disapproved of this platform. I was actually going to say it seemed to me like a poor marketing decision for them until Ben, you just read out how little engagement they get. I would have thought this is quite a good way to promote a newspaper article that you want people to read, but apparently people aren't particularly interested in it.
Isn't the truth nobody just wants to read the Guardian's articles? I mean, they only sell about 200,000 copies a day, but the BBC are probably one of their biggest customers.
No, but they said that they've
FOI a
had
few years ago showed that they had the most copies of the Guardian out of any other newspaper.
They've had a turn in opinion towards X for a while. This is just the final move that they're making. So we cannot speak to the level to which they wanted to engage on X anyway, with the depleting opinion they've had of the platform.
Are you on X?
Hardly.
But you've got an account?
Yeah.
What they're not realising is that people like myself, I will quote tweet their articles to talk about, I might think it's madness, but I will quote tweet their article and drive traffic towards their articles, like many on the right do. They're going to lose tens of thousands of views on some of these articles.
Well, they're saying they don't want it anymore, which is a great stance to take. They're saying that whatever sacrifices I am making with public engagement, I don't want engagement over there.
The key thing here is the Guardian is essentially not really a commercial organisation. No. It's backed up by the Scott Trust. It makes a colossal loss. That's fine. There's a lot of philanthropic journalism. That's absolutely fine. But it's not a commercial organisation. Now, what Musk has got to make sure happens with his platform is that those who, for their living, need to chase engagement, be they left-leaning or right-leaning, see X as a good platform to do it. If people are not seeing it as a platform, Musk is not running his platform well. But The Guardian is a rather obscure, rather niche product that isn't absolutely determined to make a profit because it's backed by a trust. I don't think Elon Musk is going to be crying into his soup about that.
I do think that the optics of it would change the tide, because speaking to purely objectively on business, by making this position they're taking public, it will actually be like a bat signal to people who think the same way that, oh, I'm driving towards Guardian because they're willing to make a public stance on something like being anti the new tone of X. And that will be a good ploy for them. So while you might think I'm losing engagement over here, I'm gaining new followers who believe in me, standing up for what I believe in.
I get your point, but I just don't understand what this new tone of X is. Is it because the floodgates, the censorship has stopped?
Yeah.
And because Conservatives were censored for many, many years on X. You said the wrong thing, especially during COVID. Adam will know this. During COVID, if you said lockdowns are bad, you'd get banned. So is the problem now that maybe you've just become aware that the censorship has stopped?
My thing is, I always felt like there's a degree to which censorship should not go. Because, like I said, there are people who just disagree with you and can express that they disagree with you. But my thing is the tone in which you do it. You know, and I know, and anybody with a rudimentary level of intelligence can discern when a tweet is just insulting, is just abusive. There are a plethora of ways to make a single point. If you choose to make it in an abusive way, you shouldn't be doing it on a public platform that is being used by all people who should be level-headed when using it.
But its proposition, Musk's proposition, is that this is an unregulated public square. If you want your opinion curated, watch a TV channel or buy a particular newspaper with an editorial stance. Its position in the marketplace is like Speaker's Corner. You say what you want,
that is free speech.
And it's unregulated. And it competes with regulated speech in that regard.
I agree.
And why does the left not like free speech?
Because it holds them to account, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They just don't like hate speech.
OK. Well, again, hate speech, I think, is free speech. I'm not condoning people being nasty to each other. I want people to be very kind and loving to each other. But I will die for someone's right to be abusive to me. I get it all the time. I'm sorry, that's free speech. Otherwise, free speech with conditions isn't free speech. It's just a matter of a fact. Anyway, politicians and legendary journalists gathered this evening in London to celebrate the popular politics blog Guido Fawkes' 20th anniversary. If you don't know, the blog, which was first published in 2004, has broken some of the biggest stories in UK politics over the past 20 years. It really is a cracker, and recently been at the forefront of exposing the Labour freebie scandal. GB News reporter Adam Cherry spoke to former PM Boris Johnson at the dinner tonight.
I was here 10 years ago, and they gave me the honour of asking me to do the 10-year anniversaries, which is the 20th year anniversary. And 10 years ago, I said that Guido Fawkes was the dung beneath the rosebush of democracy.
Stand by that.
And not only do I stand by it, I can see how in the years that have followed, that it has put forth, the beautiful rosebush has put forth fresh blooms and blossoms, and amazing scoop after scoop. Keir Starmer's spectacles, his wife's frocks, you name it, Guido supplies it.
Big scoops. Happy birthday, Guido Fawkes. Right, coming up, more of tomorrow's newspaper front pages are just dropped, I think. They're here. Stick with me. Back in a sec.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Restaurant St. Bart's executive head chef Johnny Crowe creates ramen with a British twist, using only the finest UK-sourced produce. As the only restaurant in London to hold both a Michelin star and a green Michelin star, St. Bart's emphasises sustainability and the diversity of British ingredients. Johnny joins me now. Johnny, congratulations on having these 2 Michelins. How do you get a Michelin green star?
Probably a better question for the inspectors, but I mean, I think it's down to a lot of hard work.
What hoops do you have to go through?
So I think it's working every day on it. The sustainability isn't something that you just achieve and then therefore you have it and you can sort of relax. It's about every day trying to be better, sustainable.
So what things do you do to make it sustainable?
One of the main things that we've really tried to do is focusing on British produce, and actually, you know, part of that is about sustainability and food miles. A massive part of it for us was also about sort of helping the British economy and the farming economy and our fisheries as well. But yeah, no, the idea...
I have a lot of farms near St. Bart's, which is in the heart of the City of London.
Well, funnily enough, there's an amazing collective called Shrub Provisions who we use a hell of a lot, who work with farmers all around East Sussex. So it makes a difference from flying it in from Kenya or somewhere else like that. But no, like a big part of it was, one, using British produce to cut down on food miles, but also helping sustain our farming industry.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, welcome back. More of tomorrow's newspaper front pages have just dropped, starting with the Metro. Trump's defence chief is TV host. A Fox News TV host with no government experience has been picked to be the new US Defence Secretary by Donald Trump. Hope for me yet. Daily Express, yes, I am fully responsible. She died because of me. This is the terrible, tragic story of the death of Sarah Sharif, who is in court, charged with her killing. The Sun newspaper, great tabloid story. Klopp ref on coke at the Euros. Under fire, Premier League referee David Coots snorts what appears to be cocaine in a video taken at this summer's Euros. Extraordinary story. I can't see how he holds on, to be honest. The Daily Mirror, wild west of cosmetic surgery in Britain. Undercover clinic probe sparks government crackdown pledge. And the Daily Telegraph leads on Alison Pearson's appalling visit by police at her home on Remembrance Sunday. Should we talk about this Daily Mirror one? Wild west of cosmetic surgery in Britain. So Wes Streeting's vowed to crack down on Wild West operators doing things such as liposuctions, even lip fillers, I think you need to have a certain licence for. And it's funny, I was saying to you off air, I see so many young women especially now who are beautiful, they've got youth on their side, they're in their 20s, getting lip fillers, Botox, boob jobs, all that kind of thing. I mean, what's that about, Mark?
Yeah, it's pretty strange. I mean, it seems to be we catch whatever America's doing about 10 years later, right? Where, you know, cosmetic surgery, it's not quite mandatory, but it's completely normal. My worry here is we're still in the belief that the answer to every problem is more state regulation. I think you've got to be much clearer about people who are going into this. What are the undertakings? Yeah. What's the comeback if you get it wrong? But, you know, any time anything goes wrong, our knee-jerk knee-jerk reaction is let's bring in still more state rules, and true to form, Wes Streeting's done exactly that.
I'm from Essex, so I'm pretty up to date with.
How much Botox have you had?
I've never had any, but I mean, some of the I've got a pub, I've had bars. Some of the girls, what they do to themselves these days, I mean, they end up looking like ducks with the big lip fillers, you know, look ridiculous. But there's 20-something-year-old girls that have Botox. Now, that's meant to get lines out of your face. You don't have lines in your early 20s. It's almost like a mental illness to some of these girls.
I guess, Juditha, social media has a massive part to play, do you think?
100%, because you've got on social media this kind of homogenization of what beauty look like. And when you have young people just absorbing that, if they don't conform, they're just going to cut themselves up to try to look that way, and then it ends up going horribly wrong. But then you've got people who financially exploits the insecurities of young people by offering them this surgery. So that's why you do need the government to kind of step in.
Yeah, I think, Adam, even blokes are getting, like, pec implants and things like that.
Listen, I've heard...
Would you ever consider it?
No, I wouldn't. I'm ageing gracefully.
What about in 10 years, Adam, if you were looking a bit...
No way. My wife even tells me off for not using moisturiser. You know, I'm just not into all that. But I can see why some are, but it must be the pressures of social media. Yeah. It's very vain, to be fair, to do all that if you're a man.
Yeah. Well, I look too young as it is. I look about 16, so I don't need it just yet. Maybe if I have a third baby, I'll get some Botox or something. Anyway, time for tonight's GBUJ. Oh, here we go. Sorry, no sting. Greatest Britain and Union Jackass, obviously. Mark Littlewood, who is your Greatest Britain tonight, please?
Honorary, the president of Azerbaijan, President Aliyev, I think I pronounced his name right, he opened the COP conference by saying fossil fuels are a gift from God. Now, I'm not a religious man, but he's basically right. They are a natural resource that absolutely encourages human flourishing. I'm rather hoping that the next COP is opened with somebody saying drill, baby, drill, because that's roughly the equivalent.
Adam, your...
Mine's going to surprise a lot of people. My Greatest Britain is actually The Guardian for upping sticks and leaving X and cleansing my timeline of their misinformation.
But that said, Adam, why do you want to live in an echo chamber? So The Guardian and on the lefties are going, you don't surely want to just...
It's just made me laugh. They've exposed themselves. Thank you to The Guardian for exposing the left as being cowards and running away. They do not like being held to account.
I'd rather they stayed. I'd rather we debate people from all sides of the argument. It's going to be a bit boring if all the lefties do leave.
They've exposed themselves.
I don't think they will leave. Same with all the celebs in America leaving when Trump was elected. So I'm going to leave. I'm going to, you know, Timbuktu. But they're not. They stay around. Juditha, your GB.
Samantha Harvey, she won the Booker Prize for her book Orbital, and she wrote this during COVID lockdown. And it's about a day in the International Space Station. And it's quite beautiful that at a time of darkness, she wrote this book about the beauty of the planet. Wow. And it ended up selling more copies than all three Booker Prize winners, last three Booker Prize winners combined. And she's a bestseller of all the 6 finalists. So it's a great thing of turning negativity into positivity.
OK, I think we'll go with her. I saw Tim Peake, the British astronaut, in Brighton the other week. It was amazing. He was talking about how being in space is quite a spiritual experience. I love space, and I think we should explore the universe and improve our horizons in the cosmos. Very quickly, Union Jackass...
Easiest pick ever, Essex Police. What on earth are they up to? Lamentable invasion of Alison Pearson's space, no explanation, and probably one of the poorest press statements I've ever seen from any government agency.
Mine is Trans Awareness Week. How can anyone not be aware of trans people? They're overrepresented on our TV. Their agenda is forced on our kids in schools. The progress flag is in every stadium I've ever been to. And a week doesn't go by when there isn't a trans sexual deviant in the news. So what a ridiculous thing.
I don't think all trans people are sexual
No,
deviants.
they're not. But to say that we're not aware of them is ridiculous.
OK. All right, Juditha?
Sue Gray for trying to rebrand what has been an unedifying exit from her position to make it look like she had engineered everything. So it's kind of quite childish. Just go and go quiet.
Well, she's not even got that job now. What was it, the envoy to the nations? As if she was travelling across the sort of Ottoman Empire.
She didn't even show up for the first meeting because she didn't want the job. And now she's saying that, she wasn't let go. She just didn't want to do it.
I'm sure the nations and the regions will cope without her.
What a stupid role. I know it was completely made up to keep her in the loop, but what a stupid role.
Total non-job.
An envoy to Wales, which is like 100 miles down the...
I wonder if she's got any dirt on Keir Starmer, and that will come out.
Sure, she's got loads. The Union Jackass today, Essex Police. Goodness
Easy
me.
win.
Come on, guys. I presented you the crime stats with Essex Police. I think sexual crimes were 9%, burglaries were 6%, vehicle taking was something like 2%. You've got crimes to solve, guys. I know you're just doing your jobs, these two young coppers who visited Alison Pearson, but don't visit people over stupid, hurty tweets. Right, thank you very much. Mark Littlewood, Adam Brooks, Judita De Silva, thank you very much for your company tonight. Coming up next, it's Headliners, presented by the great Simon Evans. Simon, what do you have in store for us?
Hi, Ben. Well, we have a very similar clutch of news stories, of course, to those which you've been examining in the previous programme. It strikes me that the vast majority seem to circle around Elon Musk, who has become the Moriarty-like spider at the trembling centre of the World Wide Web. We have Musk leading the growing backlash against the police visiting Alison Pearson. We have The Guardian removing itself from Elon Musk's X channel. We have Elon Musk heading up the Thinning Out programme with Vivek Ramaswamy and so on. It's a Musk-heavy hour, but we'll do our best to keep it light.
All right, sounds cracking. Thanks, Simon. I'll be back from tomorrow from 9 p.m. Thank you at home for watching. Appreciate you. Next up is Headliners. Good night.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening. Thanks for joining me for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A lot of cloud around tomorrow. For many, it'll be a duller day compared to today. But again, for most places, not going to be much rain around. It has been a very dry start to November, thanks to high pressure by and large. Changes are on the way, particularly as we go towards the weekend. There is a weather front just slowly working south, but it's kind of fizzling out, bumping up against that high pressure. Will still bring some rain and drizzle, just trickling its way south across parts of central and eastern England through the night, eventually turning things a bit damp across the southeast. Ahead of it, temperatures could dip down to single figures, but behind it with a lot more cloud, generally a milder night than last night. Could again be some mist and fog patches forming through parts of southern Scotland where we do get the clearer spells, and it will be a damp and potentially drizzly start to the day across southernmost counties of England, so a very different feel here compared to today. Elsewhere, most places just dry and cloudy, but there will be some holes in the cloud here and there. Thick cloud, though, for northern Scotland means a dull and damp and at times drizzly morning for the Highlands and the Western Isles. Let's go through the rest of the day. Not a great deal will change. I'm hopeful the rain and drizzle in the far south should scoot away, and also that skies will brighten over central and eastern England in particular. Decent chance of seeing some sunny spells coming through. Parts of southern and eastern Scotland may also brighten up, but for many it will just stay pretty drab. Where it does, 10 or 11 the top temperature, bit of brightness, could see those temperatures getting up into the teens, and again the wind's fairly light for most places. Friday we'll start to see a change, but again for most it'll be dry. Some light rain and drizzle over northern England, North Wales, turning wetter in the far northwest and windier here as well. This is an active weather front that's going to bring a change, getting gusty and turning soggy. Further south, generally dry with some sunshine, 10 or 11 degrees Celsius, but it's going to turn colder for all of us through the weekend.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Gentlemen, good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Love a bit of baking and share some hot tips. We're delighted to be joined by our baking extraordinaire, Matty Edgell, who won Great British Bake Off last year.
Woo!
Welcome. Congratulations as well. I'm sure you're sick of being congratulated.
And there's a reminder.
No, you like all the glory.
Yeah.
What was it like winning the Great British Bake Off? What's last year been like for you?
Winning it was I was not expecting to win at any point until they said my name.
You're a very
so it was a nice
guy.
surprise. No,
really?
In touch with reality. Yeah, no, I wasn't.
Was it quite a close race throughout then?
Yeah, I considered myself the underdog throughout. I think the first week I turned around after the showstopper and kind of saw how good everyone was, and then looked at mine and thought, how have I got here? And that kind of theme followed through.
But then that surely like an underdog. You on.
Yeah, it did.
Actually, I'm going to get better throughout this.
Yeah, I think it made me kind of like really tune into the feedback that they was giving me and trying to embed that throughout. So that's probably why.
Could you feel yourself improving as the series went on?
Definitely, and I think also, like, kind of simultaneously, my confidence improved at the same time, and then that, like, little bit of belief in myself probably helped out as well.
What was your strength? Biscuits, cake, bread?
I think cake's my strength.
Cake.
I think cake, typically, if you start baking, that's probably where you start, isn't it? So that was what I knew most.
How did you start baking?
I've been asked this so many times since...
You don't know?
I attribute it to my nan.
Sweet.
But, yeah, I would say... I think most people probably attribute it to, like, a grandparent or something that they maybe done with, like, their parents when they was growing up. So I'll give it to my nan.
Or the major lockdown baking boom.
Yeah, banana bread.
Everybody...
All over the place, isn't it? It's good.
Yeah, it's really good. I love a banana bread, even now.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour to find out why the assisted dying bill could cost the NHS but save on the Lecky bill. Why Russia will show films to get the people in the mood for breeding. I've heard of those sites. And when the tractors attack, or more importantly, where will the tractors attack? My guests tonight are Leo Kearse and Steve N. Allen. They're standing by. This is Headliners. But before tomorrow's news, let's go to tonight's headlines with Sophie Reaper.